And I will fight Clea, but we need to be ready, regardless of the book.
If anything were to happen to me, would you stay here?
Nothing's gonna happen to you.
The trailer for episode 5 is here, and honestly, I was not prepared for what I just saw. Because what is coming in this episode is not just another war scene or another romantic twist. What is coming feels like the moment this entire final season has been building toward. The siege of Savannah, Jaime facing his demons, Roger and Bree on completely opposite sides of a war neither of them wanted to be in. And if that wasn't enough, the Cunninghams are making their move, and it is looking incredibly dangerous for everyone we love. So let me break down everything we saw in this trailer, because there are details hidden in plain sight that most people completely missed. And once you see them, you are going to understand exactly why episode 5 might be the most intense episode of this entire final season. Let's start with the Siege of Savannah, because the moment I saw it in the trailer, my jaw literally dropped. This is not a small skirmish. This is not a background conflict that we occasionally cut to. This is a full-scale military siege happening right outside the city walls, and our characters are right in the middle of it. And what makes this so incredibly tense is not just the battle itself. What makes it tense is who is on which side. Because Roger, who was supposed to be gathering weapons and coming back to help Jaime, has now been pulled directly into this war by the American army. He did not choose this. He was forced into it. And now he is standing on one side of this siege with a weapon in his hand and a war around him that is not his war. But here's the part that genuinely broke my heart when I saw the trailer. Bree is on the other side. The synopsis told us that Roger and Bree would find themselves on opposite sides of the conflict. And I think most of us read that and thought, okay, they will be in different locations, different situations, but not literally facing the same battle from opposite ends. And yet, that is exactly what seems to be happening. These two people who love each other, who have fought so hard to stay together across time itself, are now separated by a war neither of them started. And the tension that creates is almost unbearable to watch, even in trailer form. Now I want to talk about something important here, because a lot of people are worried that this siege is going to cost us Roger or Bree, and I completely understand that fear. This is the final season. The writers are not afraid to make bold choices. But here is what I genuinely believe. Roger and Bree are survivors. They have survived time travel. They have survived separation. They have survived situations that should have broken them completely. And I do not think the show is going to take one of them away from us in episode 5. What I do think is that this siege is going to push them both to their absolute limit. We are going to see Roger in the middle of real combat, not just the edges of it. And we are going to see Bree making decisions under pressure that are going to define her character for the rest of this season. And honestly, watching Bree in this trailer, she does not look like someone who is scared. She looks like someone who has made a decision and is ready to stand by it no matter what happens. That strength in her character is something this show has been building for years, and it feels like episode 5 is finally going to let her show it in the biggest way possible. But let us also think about what this siege means for the bigger picture of the season, because the Battle of Savannah is a real historical event. It happened in 1779. The British were defending the city, and the Americans, along with French forces, attempted to take it back, and they failed. It was one of the worst defeats for the American forces during the entire Revolutionary War. And if the show is staying close to that history, then the side Roger has been forced to fight on is the side that is going to lose this battle. Which means Roger could come out of this siege on the losing end of a war, possibly injured, possibly in danger, and possibly in a situation where getting back to Bree becomes even harder than it already is. That is the kind of storytelling that Outlander does so well. It uses real history as the backdrop, and then puts our characters right in the center of it, so that the stakes feel completely real. Because we know how this battle ended historically, and that knowledge makes every single moment Roger spends in that siege feel dangerous in a way that is almost painful to watch. Now on top of all of this, let us talk about what Bree's presence with Lord John Grey actually means in the context of this siege. Because Lord John Grey is a British officer. He is loyal to the crown. And if the Siege of Savannah is the British defending the city, then being with Lord John Grey essentially puts Bree on the British side of this conflict. Which is exactly what the synopsis is telling us. Roger fighting with the Americans, Bree sheltering with a British officer. Two people who belong together, standing on opposite sides of a war. And what I find fascinating about this is that neither of them made a wrong choice. Roger did not choose to join the Americans. He was forced. Bree did not choose to side with the British. She was already with Lord John Grey when the siege began. These are two good people caught in an impossible situation, and that is the kind of drama that makes Outlander so emotionally devastating when it wants to be. And from what I saw in this trailer, Episode 5 very much wants to be. The visuals alone during the siege scenes are stunning. The scale of it feels genuinely cinematic. And knowing that this is the final season, knowing that the show is giving everything it has left, I think the Siege of Savannah is going to be one of the most visually spectacular sequences this show has ever produced. So hold on tight, because Episode 5 is about to take everything we thought we knew about where this season was going and turn it completely upside down. Now let us talk about the part of this trailer that honestly scared me the most. Because while the Siege of Savannah is dramatic and emotional and everything we just talked about, what is happening at Fraser's Ridge with the Cunninghams is a completely different kind of danger. And in some ways, it is even more terrifying. Because the Siege of Savannah is a war you can see coming. You can hear the cannons, you can see the soldiers, you know where the threat is. But Mr. Cunningham is the kind of threat that hides behind a friendly face and a polite conversation until the moment he decides to strike. And from what we saw in this trailer, that moment has finally arrived. Now let me remind you of something important. Back in Episode 4, we saw Mr. Cunningham's plans start to come together in a way that genuinely surprised me. I was not expecting him to make his move this quickly. I thought we had at least a couple more episodes of build-up before things escalated. But no, the man has been moving in silence this entire time, and suddenly everything he has been planning is right there on the surface for everyone to see. He has been gathering his own militia right there in Fraser's Ridge. Think about what that actually means for a moment. This is not someone who is just talking about opposing Jaime. This is someone who has been quietly building an army on Jaime's own land, right under his nose. And the fact that it took this long for anyone to fully realize the extent of what Cunningham was doing tells you exactly how careful and calculated this man has been. He is not impulsive. He is not emotional. He is patient and he is smart. And in many ways, that makes him far more dangerous than any battlefield enemy Jaime has ever faced. Because Jaime knows how to fight soldiers. He knows how to read a battlefield. But a man who smiles at you while quietly building a force to destroy you is a completely different kind of enemy. And now, in Episode 5, Mr. Cunningham is finally making his first real move against Jaime, and the trailer makes it very clear that this confrontation is not going to be small. This is the moment everything has been building toward between these two men. And what makes it even more intense is what Mrs. Cunningham says. Because in Episode 4, I genuinely thought she might be different from her husband. When she stepped in and stopped Mr. Cunningham from threatening Claire, I thought, okay, maybe she has a conscience. Maybe she is someone who will eventually help our characters when things get really bad. And then the trailer for Episode 5 completely destroyed that idea. Because Mrs. Cunningham looks directly into the camera and says that Jaime deserves to be executed. Not threatened, not punished, executed. And hearing that word in the context of this show, in this final season, sent a chill through me that I was not expecting. Because this is not just political opposition anymore, this is personal. This is a woman who is willing to call for the death of a man she has been living near this entire time. And that level of hatred, that kind of cold conviction, tells you that the Cunninghams are not just obstacles for Jaime to overcome. They are genuine villains who are going to make his life incredibly dangerous in the episodes to come. Now here is what I think is going to happen in Episode 5 specifically. I think Mr. Cunningham is going to try to use his militia to make a move against Jaime that is meant to look justified. Because that is the smart play for someone in his position. He cannot just attack Jaime openly without a reason that he can defend in front of the community around him. So he is going to try to frame this confrontation as something legitimate. Something that looks like law and order rather than what it actually is, which is a power grab on Fraser's Ridge. And I think Jaime is going to see through it immediately. Because Jaime Fraser has been navigating political enemies his entire life. He knows what it looks like when someone is coming for him with a smile on their face. But knowing it is coming and being able to stop it are two completely different things. Especially when Cunningham already has a militia built and ready to move. And this is where things get genuinely scary for Jaime. Because right now his position is incredibly vulnerable. Roger is not there. He is stuck in the middle of the Siege of Savannah. The weapon support that was supposed to come has not arrived. Jaime is essentially trying to hold Fraser's Ridge together with whatever he has left. And meanwhile, Cunningham has been quietly preparing for exactly this moment. The timing of Cunningham's move is not an accident. He chose this moment on purpose. He waited until Jaime's support system was stretched as thin as possible before making his move. And that level of strategic thinking from a villain is something this show has not really shown us before in quite this way. Most of the threats Jaime has faced have been powerful, but not necessarily this calculated. Cunningham is different, and episode 5 is where we are finally going to see just how dangerous that difference really is. Now, I also want to talk about Claire in this section, because her role in what is happening at Fraser's Ridge is going to be absolutely critical. As we saw in episode 3, Claire gained this extraordinary ability to bring people back after the blue light appeared. And I said it before, and I will say it again. That power did not appear by accident. The timing of it, coming right after she learned that Jaime was going to die in the war, is not a coincidence the writers put there for no reason. That ability exists because the show is preparing us for a moment where Claire is going to need it. And with Cunningham now making his move against Jaime, with a militia ready and a wife who is calling for his execution, the possibility of Jaime getting seriously hurt in episode 5 is very real. I do not think we are going to see Jaime die in episode 5. I genuinely do not believe that. But I do think we might see him in a situation serious enough that Claire's presence and her abilities become the thing standing between him and something truly terrible. Because that is the kind of storytelling this show loves. Putting the person with the power exactly where they need to be at exactly the right moment. And Claire has always been that person for Jaime. From the very beginning of this story, she has been the one who saves him, heals him, pulls him back from the edge. And in the final season, with everything falling apart around them, that role she plays in his life is going to matter more than it ever has before. So when you watch the Cunningham scenes in episode 5, do not just watch what Cunningham is doing. Watch Claire. Watch where she is. Watch what she sees. Because I have a feeling that whatever happens between Jaime and the Cunninghams in this episode, Claire is going to be right there in the middle of it. And the choices she makes in those moments are going to shape everything that comes after.